second panel for today is here to give us a fem telescope to the future of leadership and our role as women leaders in it. Taking the stage to discuss women rising, making power moves towards leadership are Sirisha Tangirala, Head HR India and HR Business Partner Global One Advanced, Dipti Bhatt, former Senior Director, Metric Stream, Shyamala Swaminathan, Associate Director, EY, Vaishali Aranha, Vice President, Societe Generale, and Sailaja Manacha, who is the author, founder of physicist.co.in, C-level leadership coach, and who will also be serving as the moderator for this panel. Over to you all, panelists, and Sailaja, please take over. Thank you for joining us and being here.
Thank you, Kajal. Thank you for that introduction and that video, which I think is such a fabulous segue into what this panel is to discuss. So higher up the ladder, fewer the women, and 8% only in management roles, as Neha talked about at the start. And while many organizations ensure that there is a definite participation of women in learning and development programs, I think what is achingly apparent is that women need more women to advance at the workplace too. Women having other women model for them what it is like to be at the top and hold that place with ease and grace has become vital. And I think Shubha on the last panel, Shubha from Goldman Sachs on the last panel alluded to this beautifully. I think in these COVID times and post-COVID era, businesses are going to need much bigger innovations in every dimension, be it processes, business models, and people engagement. And women leaders, especially, I think, bring qualities of lateral thinking, emotional intelligence, and great collaboration. And these are what we need for solutioning in these tough times ahead. I'm very excited to moderate this conversation with our panel of women leaders who have walked this path and continue to reinvent the way that they take their place at the top. So really excited to be with the four of you. This discussion focuses on how women can confidently make those power moves needed for an upward rise in their careers. So right at the outset, welcome to all of you. And again, thank you to all the participants who have been on this since morning. And I see the numbers are staying steady and growing on this conference. So the very first question that I have, I'd like to address to both Shyamala and Vaishali, to you two. What do you see as barriers today to women being at the top in the career ladder? Shyamala?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sailaja. So I think some common barriers that women tend to face are, I think the most important thing that I would like to call out is the unconscious bias. It is hard to address, but it gets manifested in many forms, including role stereotyping and many other things that you could talk about. Also today, most organizations tend to have inclusive work environments. We've reached a point where we have this. But one of the gaps in this is the ability to actually address varied risk appetites. And when we don't have something that addresses varied risk appetites, it impacts more. And this actually serves as a very potent barrier for women. And the third, I think, is absence of a clear career roadmap, because in most cases, you have to ask for what you want, be clearly vocal about aspirations and goals. And this can happen only when you have a clear vision. So this is a very personal barrier in terms of not having a clear career roadmap. And this may sound often repeated, but I think it's still relevant in terms of societal and cultural constraints within which women are trying to grow. So, though there has been a significant shift in this, I think what has not changed is the cultural mindset on what should be the work-life balance for a woman. Exactly where does that start and end? So I think those are some common barriers that women tend to face.
Thanks, Vaishali. Thanks, Shyamala. Vaishali, I'd like to bring you in.
Okay. Hi, Shailaja. Hi, everyone. For me, I would like to speak about the standards that women set for themselves. Women have to prove themselves much more than their male colleagues sometimes. This becomes a problem as as women are reluctant to self promote or to ask for what we want. And I think this kind of theme has been resonating in the previous discussions earlier today about women not being vocal enough to ask for what they want. Individual mindsets as well, thoughts and behaviors of women themselves that hold them back. So women could reach a certain level and then choose to stay out or opt out of the race. They do not push themselves beyond due to social pressure, due to lack of confidence, maybe very risk averse. And women may want different things and may face different kinds of barriers as well when compared to men. My colleague just spoke about different types of gender bias and stereotyping. So sometimes what a role is versus the behavior required for a particular role. So the notion that certain roles are more feminine versus roles which are more masculine also do exist even today. I mean, this might sound very old and archaic, but it is a fact that it happens today. Even if you look at within an organization, you have to organize a team event, you have to have a buddy system. It's generally women that are assigned these or are asked to nominate themselves more than men. And I see this happening even today in the organizations and that I work in. Another barrier could be structural barriers like lack of access to informal networks. So it's not just the networkings, associations, or the forums that our companies or organizations create, but it's also informal networks outside office and outside office hours. So women generally do not get included in these events and do not usually form a part of office cliques, because there's always a misconception that women will not be available or have time beyond family, work and family. And I think last 2 points that I would like to cover are lifestyle choices, work-life balance, family choices such as relocation due to marriage also makes women take breaks from their career. Whether they are the breadwinners or the caregiver priorities, that also comes into play, I think. And the last would be taking risks. Women are generally seen as less likely to take risks and more likely to question their own judgment about whether they are capable or whether they are confident enough to take on certain roles.
Thanks for that, Vaishali. Shyamala and Vaishali, both of you, I think with that response, sort of brought in the threads from a lot of the earlier discussions that we've been having since morning. Thank you for that. I'd like to address this question both to Dipti and then to Sirisha. For all of us women who moved towards the top, there has been one critical pivot point. Yeah, that point that really allowed that leap to happen. So I'd love to hear, your own personal experience with that. Deepti first, and then Sirisha. What was that pivot point for you in your career lead up to the top?
Thank you, Sailaja, and hello everyone. Welcome, and I feel privileged to be part of HerRising conference, and glad to meet you all. It was a very good question, Sailaja, and when I resonate with the discussions which are happening around, and the barriers which women faces and all, somewhere in the entire gamut of work-life integration, personal choices, networking, all these aspects, we sometimes find ourselves that we don't have a clear, visible vision. Okay, so it takes a lot of effort to make a career pivot. So first of all, I want to kind of, I had a few years ago in 2006 where I made what I call it as a career pivot. But a lot of people said, "Oh, it's a major career change." But I respectfully disagreed, because I always felt there's a difference between the two. And I first would like to bring the perspective to our audience that what's the difference between a career pivot and career change. Career pivot is called as a rotation or it's like, when you leave your path, one path which you are already growing in that particular career, and you join another path. Basically, you move to the other path from that particular uh, uh, decision. Whereas career change, it is about transformation. It is to be different. Okay, and it is often a new career path which possibly requires new skills, starting all over again. And it happens a lot of times because of the family priorities, because of the migration. We are kind of made to do those choices. Okay, so it's like moving from technical role to HR role, or moving from retail to software engineering, or civil engineering to software engineering, or something like that. Okay, so to make essential pivot point, uh, you do not actually require a new skill, but you use existing skills which you have gained throughout your career. And you can additionally derive those skills basically from your experiences, your background, your hobbies, your volunteer work, or sometimes even your passion. You really have to look at all this aspect when you are making a career pivot point. Okay, and the three key aspects which I personally feel is very, very important to make career pivot is, and especially for any women who is making this change, right? Or anybody for who is career oriented and want to rise up in the ladder. One is transferable skill. For me, I had project management, people management, quality assurance, technical skills, customer interfacing skills, which helped me to make my career pivot. Uh, uh, the other two aspects are strengths and personal branding, right? Uh, uh, what drives us to make that change, or what ticks us? It's a very critical aspect to make the career pivot, right? And what for me, my greatest strength was, being a creative problem solver, which kind of, allowed me to you make a career pivot. And last but not least, it's personal branding. We all have been having our reputation, either professionally or personally. We have our own reputation in our lives, right? Not necessarily that the reputation is only professional, but it's also personal, right? And your reputation could be anything. It could be result oriented, it could be being accountable, it could be go to person. I had some of those in my professional life, right? And this reputation combined with this strength allowed me to understand my personal brand. I also went through a lot of discovery phase that required a lot of self-reflection, effort to know what, why, how, about who I am and where I want to be. So eventually, combining all these three aspects, along with an opportunity to take a new challenges, allowed me to, make a pivot in a new direction, to take up a new role, altogether a new role in business development, leaving my software service delivery behind in 2006.
Thanks, Dipti. That was really inspiring to hear your pivot story. Sirisha, what's yours?
Thanks, Sailaja. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to, start with my own story here. Might be I feel that this will help you understand what is my pivot point in my career to lead to the leadership role. Way back in 2017, I was hired as a maternity cover in my by my current organization, and it was for a very short tenure. It was for 6 months. So during my hiring process, it was made very clear to me that HR as a function is still very nascent in this India organization. Um, and the expectations were very clearly set that I need to engage with the organization as a consultant and create a full-fledged HR function by designing and streamlining few locally relevant policies and also aligning the rest of the processes and systems with the global counterpart. So that's how my journey has started in Advanced. And just to give you a background, Advanced India was more like a proprietary based firm till 2015. And in the year 2015, it was acquired by a major equity partner named Vista Consulting Group. And the head office and the leadership teams of Advanced are based out of UK. And as the saying goes, you need to be at the right place at the right time, you know. So that has really worked well for me, and that saying goes true in my life. I was engaged in a contract, as I told you, of 6 months, and exactly by the end of my tenure, the R&D function was going through a major transition. Majority of R&D roles were being moved into India, and parallelly, again, my stars were aligned. The global R&D HR business partner, who was based out of UK, has resigned. So by then, my performance has made a difference to the organization, and I've achieved all my strategic goals assigned to me. So our CHRO, lady based out of UK, the leadership team, she was thoroughly impressed and by my performance, and she has offered a permanent assignment, you know, with dual roles. So one is being the head of HR for India, and the second role is being the global HR business partner for R&D. And this was the first time in the history of the organization where the leadership role was offered to a resource based out of India. After that, there was no looking back. And now I lead a team of 10 members in HR in India. And I'm also part of global HR leadership team. And I manage 800 plus employees who are based out of India, UK, US, France, and Spain. So that has been my journey. I must say this was my pivot point in my career.
Super energizing to hear that, Sirisha. Thanks for that. When we think of women making moves to the top, avenues such as coaching, mentorship, sponsorship, networking, and many of you already spoken about your own personal brand. These are all significant avenues to be used, built on, expanded. So I'd really like now to speak to each of you on your views on some of this, and I just invite some of your thoughts. Shyamala, I'd love for you to share, what are your thoughts on, mentorship, networking, and I'm aware with this question that I want each of you to comment, and we have, about 10 minutes for this section. So I do want that we sort of, manage our time well and have each of us speak. So Shyamala, your thoughts on mentorship and networking.
Sure. Thank you, Sai. I think I'll start with networking because I think we've spoken about it for some time now. Networking is crucial, and I think today most organizations have multiple avenues for networking. So what it helps us with, irrespective of which gender you're from, I think it helps us to identify role models, find the mentors and sponsors that we're going to talk about that will help you expand opportunities. And it also helps with refining the career plan that you have. I think that's one of the crucial benefits. And alternately, sometimes that does happen with networking. It opens up a whole new universe of possibilities that you never knew existed. It could be totally different from, I think, the career plan that you had. I think in some of the stories we have heard earlier, this has been alluded to. So how do we network, I think, is most crucial to reach the top and to hold on there. I think we need to network with focus and intent. So this is slightly different from social networking, that we actually do it with a little focus and intent and make best use of any opportunity to widen your network. Also make networks that truly count. And in this era of virtualization with COVID actually hitting us with, ensures that we are actually virtually networked, we have to make these virtual networks count on a real basis. The basic advice would be to go beyond likes and emoticon responses, go out there, establish the network, and ensure that you are engaged with the network. And I think as women, we genetically have the advantage to nurture and help, and that can effectively be brought into networking, right? And we can use this to pay back to other women who are trying to advance and are behind you. Finally, I think on networking, I will conclude by saying it's a two-way street. You derive value out of networking when you seek to add value. And remember, wherever you are, whatever resources you have, you always have something to contribute. So you don't have to feel intimidated while networking, don't have to feel that we don't have something to contribute. I think those are very crucial elements that you need to bring in while networking. On mentoring, a mentor is someone who will help you discover your strengths and skills, and it also helps you to break the barriers that I was talking about earlier in terms of lack of a career roadmap, enhances your risk taking appetite. A mentor is someone who could do that. So mentoring is very crucial to reach the top. They can work as timekeepers. I think this is very crucial for women, because sometimes we tend to slip on what our goals are because we have competing priorities that all seem compelling at the same time, right? And help find solutions to the problem you face. The other aspect with mentoring, if it happens that you could actually do that, is job shadowing, because it gives us an advantage of a view into the role before we are actually made accountable. So it helps us to recalibrate if required, reprioritize if required, and also most importantly gives the confidence. I think that's something that we've spoken about in terms of barriers that we face. So mentoring can help address all these barriers and actually help you grow.
Super. Thank you, Shyamala. Really an array of ideas there. Dipti, I'd love for you to share your thoughts about coaching and sponsorship as two significant ways to support movement to the top.
Thank you, Shyamala. And somewhere I kind of concur with Shyamala as well. And typically there is a need of mentoring, there's a need of networking, and most importantly, coaching. Most of the time, what happens is that it is overlapping. Sometimes people blur the definition between mentoring and coaching, but I personally feel coaching plays a pivotal role for women to take their place at the top, but at the same time it has to be implemented well, because if it is implemented well, it can act as an equalizer for both men and women, and will reduce the discrepancies, be it role discrepancy, be it designations, be it pay gap. Okay, so I personally feel that women and cannot be coached same as uh, as men, especially when they are growing up in the leadership, because it could be a recipe for failure. The very reason being women and men respond differently to the situations and approaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So men typically takes they are likely to take tactical approach, whereas women are more apt to do deep work for internal and external change, right? And then again, uh, uh, you know the juggling of multiple priorities makes women different in terms of approaching or responding to those situations. So there are various aspects while coaching has to be designed, especially for women who want to take their place at top. Organizations need to develop the culture of coaching. They have to identify women coaches. They have to have coach the coach approach, right? They a lot of organizations today personalizes the learning, which is one effective way to coach a woman. Not all men are comfortable coaching a woman. That is one aspect, but sometimes there is where women coaches play a lot of role, and industry is actually moving towards that particular shift, that they are identifying a lot of women coaches to coach the women to grow up in the ladder.
Yeah.
Right? Coaching programs and methods also needs to help women to develop their identity as a leader. So that's very important, because sometimes we lack confidence, we lack business acumen, we sometimes find ourselves lacking the big picture, right? So that's very important. And finally, it has to be used to also develop the personal brand. So that's my view on coaching.
Yeah. Super. Thank you so much, Dipti.
And about sponsorship,
Mhm.
typically people again confuse the same thing, like mentoring and coaching. There is a thin line and a blur line. Typically, sponsorship also is confused with mentoring. Why a mentor could be a sponsor, or he or she may be a sponsor, but sponsors goes beyond traditional social, emotional, and personal growth or development. It is more than general advice and feedback to get the work done or to play the role. sponsors are actually very, very influential people. Okay, and they actually leverage their own power and reputational capital in openly recommending the high performing employees, especially for the opportunities, assignments, or promotions, right?
Yeah.
So recently I was talking about
Dipti,
sponsorship.
Deepti, sorry to be interrupting. I'm just wanting to just manage time a little better. So I'm just going to ask you in your sponsorship piece to just wrap it up so that we can move on to
little 30 seconds, nothing much. Okay,
sure.
I just want to share one experience. I was talking to one of the women sponsors recently, right? A lot of decisions are made when you are not in the room. So you need somebody who can actually advocate for you, who can bring up important things as to why you should advance in your career. You need somebody or people that table you, that speaks for you, right? And one cannot advance a career without the sponsorship, and they help you to make the power moves. They are the sounding boards and they act as a guide and support. So it is very, very important that sponsorship is available in the organization for women leaders to advance to the career.
Thanks, Deepti. That was a very potent share. Sirisha, on which of these aspects, do you think you'd like to emphasize, and share about?
I would like to talk a bit about coaching and personal branding. So, unfortunately, I never had the good fortune of being coached in my career. However, I had an opportunity to coach my team members, and here I would like to quote one specific example. One of my team members was inducted into the recruitment team way back in 2015, and she was taken as a recruiter in Baroda. And by the time I have taken charge of the function, I have realized that she was struggling to achieve her set targets and goals, and somewhere she was kind of finding it very difficult to cope up with the situation. And I've also noticed that she was being undermined or written off as a mediocre performer by many stakeholders. So after interacting with her on regular basis, I have realized that her core strengths are effective communication and creativity. She was quite demotivated in her current role, and she also wanted a location change. So I started coaching her and honing her skills by giving her ample opportunities and relevant projects to bring the best out of her. And once I was confident that she was ready for the role, I offered her a role of HR advisory in Bangalore. And now I see her dominating the global platform by taking up global communication projects and excelling in them. And actually, to tell you the truth, she is one of our youngest team members. So that is one example I wanted to give. And coming to the personal branding, this is very important not only for aspiring leaders, but also for all the individuals from all walks of life. And I strongly believe that personal brand defines you as a person and helps you to attain your goals. The key aspect which helped me in boosting my brand value, they are self-discipline, walking the talk and respecting the time of yours and time of others. And these are the few practices I regularly practice in my life, which these would definitely help you create a strong and impactful brand value. And in my view, it plays a major role in building meaningful and successful careers going forward. That's it, Shyamala, from my end.
Thanks, Sirisha, for sharing at such a personal level. And that's a great segue as you spoke about branding to invite Vaishali. Vaishali, what are your views on personal branding as an important aspect of supporting women to move to the top?
Hi, Sailaja. Sorry, I'm just interrupting. Vaishali, just one sec to let you know that we have about 5 minutes before we can start taking questions from the audience.
We're good with 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kajal.
Okay, so I think my colleagues Sirisha and Dipti have spoken about things like, I think Dipti spoke about problem solving is her personal brand. Sirisha just spoke about keeping to time, having time commitment, self-discipline. So I want to extend that concept or those values into advice for the young women who are on the conference today, and talk about what it is to create a personal brand. Okay. So if you look at a lot of organizations today, when they are replacing their CEOs because of either natural succession or when they're hiring from outside, they typically hire CEOs with a very strong personal brand. So apart from professional achievements, it is the reputation that is built by that individual himself or herself, right? So a CEO's reputation is considered to have a very positive impact on the reputation of a company. Sometimes the reputation of the CEO is more important, has more market value as well than the reputation of a company itself. Now, why I'm talking about this is because who we are as individuals, how we are in our professional work environment is not sufficient today for us to catapult ourselves into the next, either into the next level in our organizations or really to take us, to the place that we possibly want to go to. So for me, there are two main elements of personal brand. One is the outer element, and the second is the inner element. So from an outer element perspective, it is the dress code, it is how you speak, it is how you conduct yourself, how you present yourself, which is extremely important because perceptions are reality sometimes, and people form an opinion and form an assessment within about 10 to 15 seconds of speaking to someone. It's probably wrong, but that's what happens. So when you want to create a personal brand, it is important that you take care of how you appear, how you look, how you dress, how you present yourself. The second aspect is the inner part, which is your self-perception, because your self-perception is always reflected in terms of your behavior. So self-perception is very important. Self-identification, how do you identify yourself? What are the key aspects from a professional point of view? And the third is a vision of the future. I think Dipti also spoke about visions that you have of your future. So those are the three aspects in the inner elements, I would say, of branding, which is very important. Having a strong personal brand can open the door to new businesses, to new career opportunities. And today, women generally want to do their job well and do it well, and they want to develop expertise. When you talk to a lot of women, you will see women talking about developing new skills, learning, going through different training platforms, etc. But women need to give enough attention to build a strong network and to build a strong brand. Self-promotion, credibility, engaging content, and confidence are some of the basic elements of personal branding. Often women feel uncomfortable talking about accomplishments and do not want to promote themselves directly. So therefore, my message would be an easier way to build your personal brand is to use online communication or digitally, content, express your ideas, thoughts, beliefs out there. And that is, I would say, a small way to create your own personal brand. Always have an elevator speech ready with you to talk about yourself, whether you're meeting someone or whether you're doing it online.
Yeah, thanks for those super ideas. I think all panelists with each of these comments have really laid out, if any of you taking notes, then you probably have a whole page of ideas from these four women and the different things that they've put out. I think in the interest of time, I'm just going to hand over this to Kajal so that we have some amount of time left for Q&A. Kajal, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sailaja. I'll begin with this question, which is for the entire panel. Do you think once a woman gets into leadership, it is also her responsibility to help other women rise in their careers?
So,
yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Sirisha. Go ahead.
So I think, my motto is basically you need not treat them, differently. They are capable. If we are saying that we are equal stakeholders, we are equal stakeholders, and we need to believe that. And wherever there is a talent, I don't believe that we need to, discriminate them based on gender. We are not asking for special treatment. At the same time, we need to be self-reliant and confident that, we are capable of taking up that role.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sirisha. Yes, Vaishali?
No, I would absolutely agree with Sirisha. In fact, a couple of years ago, someone asked me this question, how do you feel yourself as a woman leader? And I was taken by surprise because as a woman boss actually, and I was taken by surprise because I didn't consider myself as a woman in that position. I considered myself as an individual. So when we talk about helping others, I wouldn't say exactly like Sirisha, mentor, guide, coach other people. And if you feel that an individual is, I mean, a woman is, kind of lacking in some ways, or lack of self-confidence or anything because of the fact that she's a woman, or her personal situation is, putting her down because she's a woman, then you can always help. But I think if we are fighting for gender equality and equal positions at workplace, as leaders, we should not even come across as being biased or favoring women. I think that will be completely counterproductive.
Thank you, Vaishali. This question is for Sirisha. Sirisha, Vanilla says that we do hear that it's important to be at the right place at the right time. But as I'm trying to get back to the industry in middle management for the last 6 months, it has taken longer than I would have expected. My break has made me a better person and thankfully hasn't taken a hit on my confidence. But what would your advice be for people like me who are still waiting for opportunities to surface?
So this actually makes me reflect, about my own life, because we have moved around 6 cities because of my husband's job, and I had to take a break almost 5 times. And each time I was waiting for a new opportunity for almost 6 to 9 months. And there, I can easily, I'm not exaggerating, I must have attended, more than 100 plus interviews, where the person who is sitting on the other side of the table would question, why these breaks? What were you doing? Why didn't you concentrate on your career? And for the benefit of Vanilla, I would also say that I went back to college after 12 years of my marriage and 2 kids to a full-time course of MBA. And when I was participating in the campus recruitment, people were laughing at me because all my peers were, almost a decade younger than me. And most of the companies have, refused to even look at my profile. So I struggle that. So Vanilla, you'll have your day. Just have patience and never give up.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Sirisha. We have Rajalakshmi who wants to know what are those skill sets that an organization may expect for women who are probably beginning from a managerial role after their breaks, possibly. Would anyone like to take a go?
I'll take this up. So typically, looking at the role which you are likely to take, you will possibly do a mapping of skill set. That is how it is. But not every organization looks for 100% of your skills, right? So when you are moving into a managerial role, okay, you also need to have ability to dirty your hands, or you must be carrying the ability to dirty your hands, because leadership is not just about people management, or leadership is not just about delegating, or leadership is not just about asking the people to work for you, but it is working alongside with them. So rather than expecting outward in, or rather than expecting that organization is looking for the skills and I need to have the skills, you play upon your strengths. And if you identify that if there is a skill which is missing, you can always upskill on this skill. Or otherwise, the alternative could be that you can be honest enough to say, I am working on this, I am honing my skills, and I think I can make it this. So your confidence, your strength is what you need to play, rather than having 100% fit. Because we women actually look at having 100% fit, but nobody is perfect and nobody is 100% fit. Does that answer your question?
I sure hope so, Dipti. Thank you so much for your insights. Over to you, Shyamala. You wanted to say something?
Just one bit. I think it does not matter that you're a woman when they're looking at a managerial position. So whether whichever gender you belong to, I think the skill set is the same. And that's the approach that we must have. That's again a mental barrier that we have, that probably they're looking for something different because I'm a woman. So the way you position yourself, and I think this goes back to all that we've spoken about in terms of branding and also the confidence that we have in positioning ourselves. So this is something that I can personally relate to because I got into a managerial position, I mean a leadership position after a break of about 9 to 10 months. And I did not look at it as something that they're looking for in a woman. So we had competing candidates, and I think it's about what you have, what the skill sets you have, and how confident you are to go for it.
Thank you for that, Shyamala. Also, would all of you be able to comment on? I mean, we know there's a a very vast gap between the women in leadership when compared to men in that field. Would you be able to say what are those reasons why we have women lacking so much, particularly at senior roles, in senior roles?
Yeah, maybe
So,
I can
yeah,
speak about.
please take it.
I think women choose to take the easier road sometimes. And I mean, I speak from personal experience with the people that I've worked with as well. And that comes from a lack of confidence or the I can do this attitude. And I think all of us here who are on the panel, we've reached these levels because we've had that innate one desire to be ambitious and to succeed, but also because we've believed in ourselves. So I think when I offer a position, for example, to someone, and if it's a woman, sometimes get that, no, I don't think I can do this, or I'm not capable. And then I have to have a conversation that I think you are, and I see that ability in you, and you need to see it as well. So I think when, as you go higher and higher in your, age wise, you grow older, as well as, your children, let's say if you're a person, a mother, you start to have much more responsibilities at home, and as work. So I think a woman has to know in herself that, yes, I can do this. The minute you believe, you can do anything, because hey, all of us know that we are, great at multitasking. So I would say, women should believe in themselves, believe that they can do it. And then, as Sirisha pointed out earlier, be self-disciplined. Know that, okay, from this time to this time, I will take care of personal priorities. This is the time I will give to work. And I think that will help us to bridge that gap. Believing in yourself.
Thank you for that, Vaishali. Would anyone, Sirisha, you had something to say?
So one thing which I want to tell you is, please don't get surrender to the emotional blackmailing. The guilt feeling, which it's not coming from you, it's not innate, it is being created. So I do understand we are all staying in nuclear families. I do understand our kids are growing, and the majority of the responsibility falls on the mother. But if at all you have the will to do it, please don't feel guilty. You're not doing anything wrong. Just go for it and do, because where there is a will, there is a way. You will find the ways to balance both family and work. So that's my sincere advice to everybody.
I would like to say something. Uh, both Vaishali and Sirisha covered it so nicely that to believe yourself, you don't have to be guilty, you have to be confident about yourself, and all these aspects, right, put together. Uh, uh, as women, you should own your shots. You should be risk taker. Okay, if you want to be featured, okay, that's all about leadership, right? So you have to be confident. You have to take risk. You have to take calculated risk. You have to challenge the status quo and be vulnerable, and yet yet display the confidence what you are, right? You are first an individual and then a woman.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Dipti. Well, at no time has more light been shown on women leaders and the need for more diversity recognized. Our panel of luminaries came on board to break those myths and reinvent the way women and men think about leadership roles. This discussion focused on empowering women to become leaders in the workforce while gaining confidence through the insights that were shared and achieving success by making power moves in their careers. Thank you for that excellent discussion and taking the time to be here, panelists and Sailaja. the discussion of the problem as it stands and the many solutions that can fix it if we just put our heads and will together.